Okay. Go ahead.
So we're good?
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
So moved.
Okay.
Second. Actually, probably read the motion again because the recording was messing up.
Move approval of recommending the revisions to policy 185.4 policy committee with adding and human resources as title to the full Board of Education for final reading.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carried 3-0. Okay, the next item is 2B, 860 visitors to the schools, second reading. I will open it for discussion.
So, okay, there is a lot to process here. Let me check to make sure the agenda is correct, or what's up there for the file. Bear with me 1 second. Okay, so I have, again, some concerns about this as far as it being too broad. I really think we need to zero in on a lot of this stuff, especially after the last policy where Mr. Turner spoke to us and he gave me a better grasp on how much we don't have going in policy regarding things that should be happening to make it easier for Mr. Turner to do his job and keep all our schools safe as well. I think we need to zero in on a more stringent policy when it comes to sex offenders or registered people on the registered sex offender list. And I've come up with an option also for you guys to look at. I can share my screen if that's okay with you. Is that all right?
Sure.
Okay, so let me share my screen here. Okay, so you guys can see there. So again, everything in the gray is what is currently in the green, what's showing on the agenda in the green. Anything that I put in gray, strike that, is what I'm proposing to amend, to remove. I did want to leave the part where it says superintendent designate authorized to prohibit an individual from entering.
Excuse me a second. We're getting okay. Okay, go ahead, Board Member Romero.
Okay, so I was going through and looking at it. I have a proposed subsection 2.1, and for the staff implementation here. And I wanted to include this wording here. These protocols, basically, just to give an example of protocols that should be happening with what we either have currently existing at our fingertips, or if we need to find ways to get more resources for this to happen. The subsection 2 with the criminal history, this one right here, I initially had to put out there, but I was really looking at it through it again. I think I do need to get more advice from legal regarding this one, so I'm okay with taking this out completely from my proposal. So this one we could probably get rid of here. I'll just put this in red so just to know that I'm going to end up taking this stuff out. Regardless, this stuff right here is section 2.2. but I do think we should have something in here for now, and we can revisit it later to elaborate more on. So I think in here we should have some sort of verbiage to state that it should be up to the superintendent and administration's discretion to allow people with felony convictions on their records, because there are very various crimes that are, some are violent and others aren't. So to put a blanket on something, it is hard to do, and it's just really difficult when that comes. So that's why I'd rather do some more research so I can figure out a way to be able to get things more precise and with less gray area, so people don't feel like they're being ostracized when they really shouldn't. And it's not necessarily we're trying to be punitive here about things. The subsection 2.3, the zero tolerance for the registered sex offenders. This is all verbiage and language I would like to propose to be amended and added in on top of everything else I have shown you. And the reason I up top here where I took out all of this here is because what I'm proposing is pretty much going to negate a lot of this up here up top. So we could follow along here. The school district shall enforce a zero-tolerance policy prohibiting any individual listed on a state or federal sex offender registry from entering the district-owned property, attending school-owned sponsored events, or using district-provided transportation. This includes, but is not limited to, the school buildings, offices, grounds, athletic fields, playgrounds, and parking lots, off-campus, school-sponsored, or district-affiliated events, all forms of student transportation operated or contracted by the district. No exception shall be made for visitors or contractors or community members who are not the custodial parent or legal guardian of a currently enrolled student. In rare cases where the individual is the custodial parent or legal guardian and no other alternative exists, delivering or retrieving their child, the following conditions could apply. The individuals must remain in their vehicle at all times unless prior written approval is granted by the building principal. If permitted to exit the vehicle, it must be at a designated location and only for the purpose of drop-off or pickup. Entry to school buildings or participation in activities is prohibited. Physical access shall not be granted unless federally mandated or explicitly ordered by a court of law for a defined school-related purpose. Whenever it's possible, school-related communications such as, but not limited to, parent-teacher conferences, IEP meetings, disciplinary conferences shall occur virtually. Policy shall be implemented consistently across all district properties to ensure the safety and well-being of all students, staff, and visitors. Now, with this being said, this also looking into does this violate any ADA violations, anything with IDEA and FERPA? The IDEA portion, there could be some language that we could look into as well. I still am waiting and pending for legal to review all of this. I don't know if they've received my message or not, but I'm still waiting for that to come back from them to get their opinion as well.
Okay, let me clarify that before we move further. I spoke with our attorney this afternoon, or early this afternoon, and she had not received anything, so I forwarded her.
May I?
Absolutely. Board President Johnson, you have something to add, I think.
Yeah, there is a memo that I sent the board from legal May 16th. Did you reference that?
I did.
Oh, okay. So I encourage you to go back to your May 16th email before we send more information back to legal and incur more costs. And I hope this will answer some of your questions.
Okay. Well, our
Chair Nichols, could I ask just a quick question about the policy? I'm just wondering, is the copy that was just presented on the screen the same as the copy that was sent to me yesterday to prepare, or the copy that was handed out on Tuesday that I prepared and put in board docs, or is this different? I mean, I realize you made a change with B on
this
the
copy that I'm
criminal
showing you
history,
is
but-
what I sent to you. That's what I sent in the email yesterday. So what you're seeing on the screen is what was supposed to be on there. What is on there is not what I'm showing on the screen. That's why I had to show it on the screen.
This isn't showing up either?
That's not.
In Board Docs?
I just checked it again in Board Docs here, and it's showing the original one. It's not showing.
Okay. I apologize for that. Then something is going on with my computer that I was, because this one I did yesterday before I even left, so I don't know why the changes didn't show.
Right, yeah, that's why I was trying to show it, because I want to be able to have everyone see what I'm talking about versus just...
Because I have it printed from Board Docs, and it's showing all the changes. That's why I'm just checking to make sure that there wasn't a different version. I want to make sure that we're using the same version, so when it gets finalized or whatever, that we're on the same page.
So, okay, and also... Go ahead.
Could I let me try to clarify something. No, that's the wrong one. Got too many documents here. This is crazy. Okay. The document, Mrs. Shope, that is attached to the agenda page is this one, which is only a page, not even a page and a half. What Mr. Romero's talking about is like 2.5 pages with a lot of green. Do you have that?
I have that in front of me. I'll double check for that.
Okay. I'm in it right now, so do I need to refresh it? Anyway, but back to the discussion with legal. The other night they reviewed the changes that you had Board Member Romero, the changes that you had a separate sheet, and was waiting on more information from us. So that's what I sent today, was this one, and she did not think she would be able to get it done before the meeting. So we can, let's continue discussion, and then we'll see where we go with this. So, Board Member Hankins.
Yeah, and this is on subject but off topic here. I think the district can really consider getting out of the food pantry business. We have 8 food pantries already including the district, in our city district. 3 others that provide meals weekly. I don't see the need that our schools have to be in jeopardy of having a food pantry, or building administrators need to be administering said policies that we are just putting forth. I think maybe the time was right before and during COVID, but I think there's plenty of other sources for people who need food to get them not in our schools and jeopardizing our schools. Thank you.
Board President Johnson.
Who runs our food pantries? I know that we have people coming in and out. Who's stocking them? Who's making certain that we have food in our food pantries?
Well,
is that us?
Well, first of all,
district?
I think I need to say point of order, because that's not what we're discussing today. We're discussing visitors to schools. Well, it's part of it, but it's not it's kind of, I think it's a separate issue. If I'm wrong, correct me, but I think that's a separate issue to address.
And I hear you. That's what I said. It's off topic, but it's part of topic, and I'm not sure where it would fit in. Okay. But I know that we're changing, or we're rewriting and revisiting policies about certain things that have happened in the food pantry industry or in the school district. And I'm just looking at the overall, and I'm not sure, and I appreciate what you're saying, because I'm really not sure where it fits in, but I think a discussion at some point should be had about discontinuing our relationship with food pantries in our Beloit School District.
Thank you, Board Member Hankins. Board Member Romero.
Yeah, I do agree with that too, and that, Mr. Hankins, I plan to also bring that up as well, because that does affect the visitor and the visitor policy that we're talking about as well.
Okay.
But yeah, that is a topic that I agree does tie in with this, but not specifically being this topic. On this topic also, I did get some feedback as far as defining like what a visitor would be, so maybe we can do some definitions. I did do a little research and came up with something also to kind of give the definition of what a visitor would be. For example, the example was brought up, if someone's coming up to drop off a lunch, they're not necessarily going past the front desk. They're just coming to drop off a lunch. Here, this is for XYZ kid. Have a nice day. And there you go. So, badging in and everything like that would be the question when it comes to that. But if we need to define a visitor's definition, what do you guys think about putting that in there? I don't think it would be a bad idea. It would give more clarity and more insight as to what people are considering a visitor to be. What do you guys think?
Well, first of all, I think I'd like to defer that question to our Mrs. Beavers and Mr. Turner. My opinion is if they're going to badge in, that is the visitor we're talking about. If somebody drops off at lunch, I personally, my humble opinion, not legal, suggest that that's not a visitor. That's a
Currently, we consider a visitor as anybody who's going past the main office. If they come in the main office, they're picking up a student, they're dropping off a lunch, they are not raptored in, they're not going beyond the office doors, they're not considered a visitor.
Okay, I would agree with that.
And so you hear a lot of people say, I've been to schools 15 times and I've never been raptored in. It's whether or not you go past the main office.
Right. Thank you, Mrs. Beavers. Board Member Hankins?
Yeah, and again, I'm just looking at what was being said, and I looked at the felony, and a felon or a convicted felon, sex offender felon, sits in his car and has to have the building principal give him a notice to come in. And so I'd want to get into semantics of being on building property, i.e. a sex offender being in the yard. And I understand that, and that's where we're at with that. So do we need to define a visitor is discluded? I don't know. I think I'm going down a rabbit hole that I don't want to go to, but I think the building principal is getting a lot of more things to do when these people do get past the door. So yeah, I guess I agree with the visitor is someone who raptored in, and it is actually in the building past security or the main office. So I just spent a lot of time for nothing. Sorry.
Mr. Turner, is there any additional information that you have that's pertinent to this discussion, or if not, that's fine. I just want to make sure that everybody's heard. I have some thoughts and ideas, but I wanted to hear if there's anything else you have.
I would just reconfirm what Ms. Beaver said, is that right now the expectation of visitors is once they come in, if they're just merely there to drop something off or sign their student out and leave, that's not something they would have to raptor for. But the moment they have any extended business or leave out into the building, that's when they would have to raptor. And the reason we do that is, if you've seen any of our front offices, they can get pretty busy with parents coming in, getting their kids, whatever. Trying to raptor, check all of them in, just one secretary up there would be quite a burden. So that's just where we are right now with that definition.
Board Member Romero?
So,
hang on, Dr. Garrison. I think you've had your hand up for a while, so let me ask. Go ahead.
No, I was going to confer with Missy's statement and say the same thing, that our Raptor system is more so for when they come past the doors, if that makes any sense, or into the building.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Board Member Romero?
I guess my question could be directed more to Mr. Turner. What do you think we could be doing to keep our students safe when people come onto the property, period, not even before they get to the school front door? I mean, because we got kids outside, walking into the buildings and everything like that. So I feel that we have to have something to be able to protect them in that aspect too. It's not just when they get to the building, because crime doesn't stop just because there's a building. It happens everywhere. So what can we do to protect our kids before they get into the building? And I understand there was a concern about we don't have enough manpower, enough resources. Well, maybe this is something that we as a community or as a district need to figure out with the community partnership with people to be able to allow for more things like this. Security, in my point of view, from what I've experienced personally and from what I've seen and what I've looked back in the past, there's been a lot that's been swept under this rug. And I'm all for taking this rug and shaking it out and moving forward. So I want to be able to figure, I don't want another abundant life situation. I want to be able to know that we can protect our kids to the best of our ability. And even if it's not a shooting incident, sexual assault, it just takes seconds. It doesn't have to be, you're gone for 5-10 minutes. It just takes not even 1 or 2 seconds. And that's the severity of people don't see that kind of thing. And you might call me, overprotective, but I guarantee you, if you talk to anybody or a lot of people that have been victims, personally I know of a few, 45, 50 years down the road, they're still having trauma for something that happened in less than 2 seconds. So this is not something that I'm okay with taking a gamble on risking. So again, if there's anything that we can do, we need to figure that out. And as a board, we need to be pushing that forward as more of a priority than what it's been, because safety does affect student achievement. Maslow's hierarchy, look at that. The base is the water, air, food, shelter. Right, the next base up, the next on that base is safety. You don't feel safe anywhere, you're not going to be conducive, productive, you're not going to do anything, you're too worried about being safe. So that does affect everything here, and I want to be sure that everybody's protected, especially our littles.
Board Member Hankins.
Thank you. Juan, you're reading my mind as I even said it out loud about I think we should a visitor is a visitor, but what's the definition of a person who is on school property? And I think that's where the quandary is. Once they're on school property, what I'm hearing, and I thought about this over the weekend, was almost like an extension of our crossing guards, especially during passing hours. Someone on site who is visible, who could be a volunteer, and I think the community would have volunteers, not a paid person, who is there during passing hours, before and after school, to just stand there and be an eyes and ears. I think that's a wonderful deterrent, for somebody who may want to, engage in activity that is not kind. So that's what I'm hearing Juan say. But I think the first thing would become is define someone who is on the district grounds who is not a visitor to the schools. And I think that's where we could start. And maybe before, like I said, during passing hours, half hour before school begins and a half hour after, much like a crossing guard would. Just my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Hankins. Dr. Garrison?
The school district board is open. What I mean by that is, if there are volunteers that would like to assist us in morning procedures and or after school procedures, we do have a volunteer process that we could follow to get those individuals who are interested in helping in the morning and or after school opportunities. We do also have supervision during the morning time, and so I just want to make sure that's something that's noted in the conversation as well. Mr. Romero, I do hear your sentiments as it pertains to, yes, any type of, tragedy can happen at any given time. And I think we all want to do our best to make sure those tragedies do not happen under our watch or in any space across the United States of America. I think in this policy, though, I'm trying to figure out where are we going in the policy itself, and that's something that I would turn that thought back over to Mr. Nichols for a better clarification, because we could add a lot of stuff to this policy. I do believe the original policy that was vetted by the lawyer team was a strong policy. I would definitely be interested in seeing what other thoughts the team would have, and of course also from a lawyer perspective. But we don't want to run into any of the possible gray areas, because to me, the more and more we add, the more and more we want to keep adding to the policy, and that becomes even more convoluted over time. And so I just want to make sure I know that we do have a volunteer process. If people want to volunteer and help us in the morning time and or after school, we can follow that process. We can get people in place across the district. So Mr. Hankins and Mr. Romero, that is something that we can do. But I would like to turn it back over to Mr. Nichols to give us better guidance as it pertains to, kind of where do we want to go at this point with the policy.
Thank you, Dr. Garrison. Well, first of all, my first thought is we need to get this right. We don't. I mean, you mentioned volunteers, but the volunteers are vetted, correct? Every volunteer has to be vetted, so that's taken care of. I want to make sure that we get this right before we move it forward, and we got it in place. You got it ready to go. I'm not sure, as we said here today, that we're ready to do that because we haven't heard back from legal, and I think there's some other issues that we need to clarify. And Mrs. Beavers, thank you for your email with some good points of we do try to get clarification on. I think we've got the visitor thing taken care of, but I know there's others. But I think I'm just not sure that we're ready to motion to vote this in today. Board Member Romero.
Well, you're right. We're probably not ready to vote for this district correctly right now.
Mm-hmm.
However, right now is when we do need to be discussing what are we going to go for. Okay, so let's do that. I'm in favor of that because this does have to get ironed out and hammered out. And this is where we're doing it. I've been saying at the big board, we got to do this in committee. This is the heavy lifting. So,
correct.
Again, with all respect, I'm just trying to make sure we don't put it to the side. Nope. Especially something like this. It's very, very serious in my opinion.
I agree.
So, in that aspect, to Dr. Garrison's statement that he feels it's a strong policy, that's great if you're okay with. Because I'm not okay with allowing an opportunity to happen. The way I'm proposing it lessens that opportunity more than the current approved one with legal that's up there that Dr. Garrison's referring to. That's why I felt we need to be more precise. We need to be more strategic with it, more precise, and hit it harder and more firm. Because if you don't, that's how that rug gets all that stuff swept under it. I'm not okay with that. I'm not okay with taking any chances with our kids like that. I'm not okay with taking any chances with anybody's kids that way, for that matter. So, again, it comes down to not saying that we have to put fences around our schools, nothing like that, but we can do a virtual fence in the sense of community action to help. Let's get the volunteers out there. How many volunteers have we really petitioned to say, hey, come and help us with our kids, during the transit, the in and out hours, the times like the crossing guards, things. How has it then really flushed by? It was a big, because remember, I just came here. Was it a big initiative at one point and it kind of fizzled out, or what happened at that point? Because that should have never stopped. The safety issue mentality for our kids should have never hit the wayside, and it really feels like it has for a long time. And the fact that we even have to alter this policy at all showing that to put something in there in the beginning at first, that shows also too that the safety of these kids in that aspect hasn't been thought of before either in the past boards. And so to me that shows what's been done in the past is not working. I'm not okay with that either. So we need to figure something out, and hopefully going forward, starting here today, we can get that ball rolling to get something knocked out firm and solid so that everybody can agree. I would be hard-pressed to find anybody that's not okay with your kid being safe or someone else's kid being safe, some grandkids being safe, somebody's neighbor's kids being safe.
Thank you, Board Member Romero. Board Member Hankins?
Love the discussion, and that's exactly right. This is committee work that should be done here. I do agree that there may be a pause, but we can always revise a revision. What I think I know is true that if we don't do anything, it reverts back to the original policy. And my question to Ryan Turner, I guess, would be: are you satisfied with our current policy or the current proposed policy without revisions? Because we can always go back and revise our policy. We don't after we hear legal, but if we do what I guess is agreed upon by admin, Dr. Garrison, of the proposed changes, are we good for at least another month and then revise after we hear back from legal?
Just to make sure I understand the question, there's obviously been a lot of proposed changes. So we're talking the one prior to the board meeting on Tuesday, the last one that legal vetted. Is that the one where?
He's asking you, are you okay with how the current policy reads?
Is that correct? Missy, that is correct. Number one. I mean, because it reverts back to original policy. Then if we don't change anything today, actually we're not changing it, we're sending it to board. My question to you is, if the committee sends this to the board as it's currently stated without the revisions that Juan has just stated because it hasn't been vetted properly, are you satisfied that we bring this to the board with the knowledge that we can always revise that? So it's kind of a double-headed question. But if we approve today what has been approved by admin, Dr. Garrison, are we okay until we do another revision in a month from a safety standpoint?
Can I, before you answer, let me qualify a couple things. Number one, the current policy was last revised in 2022, so it's almost 3 years old. So to Juan's so apt comments, it's not up to date, and that's where we get into gray areas that we don't ever want to get in. And I'm 100% behind anybody. When the kids come to our schools, they need to be safe without any hesitation whatsoever. That's paramount, because I have grandkids, I have great-grandkids now, so that aren't school age yet, but I want them to be safe when they get there. So that's that. So, I just want to clarify for, the committee members that what we have today is from 2022. So, yes, moving this, we could move it. Yeah, we can move this forward. We can revise it, or we can wait and get a legal opinion and have another special policy committee meeting next week, as an example. So, I will leave it. Mr. Turner, sorry about that.
You're fine. I promise you I'm not trying to dodge this question in any shape or form. There's been a lot of changes, and I would like the opportunity to review the one that you're probably put in front of me to make sure that I know exactly the one I'm being asked about, and then I would be happy to give you an answer. I don't want to be thinking of the wrong version and then give it an answer that's, for a different one.
Thank you. Board President Johnson.
Thank you. I did forward a memo May 16th to the board members regarding visitors to the food pantry on May 16th from our legal team. So I would suggest everybody reading that. My suggestion, Chairman Nichols, is that you take all of these different suggestions, look at them side by side, reach out to board member Levy, ask for her written suggestions as well. Come up with a solid policy, in your opinion. Talk to Lauren, say, compare it to the memo, make certain everything's on the up and up relative to the memo, if there's anything outstanding in terms of legal question, and do that before the next board meeting.
Okay. Duly noted. Thank you. Board Member Hankins.
Yeah, again, just to be clear, I wasn't suggesting we revert back or just stay with the present policy. What I'm trying to say is we can pass what is currently on the board and then revise that revision as it were, as long as we're moving this forward to the board. I think we could move this forward, what is being presented, and to my knowledge, Dr. Garrison is on board with what is being proposed coming into the meeting today. And so we could do that to the board, and then when this committee gets all the information it wants to, with legal, with Juan's input, with Board Member Levy's input, with all our inputs, and then we do another revision on it. I don't think that's too problematic, and also including Mr. Ryan Turner on this. I know that it's problematic for Ryan to understand exactly what we're trying to do, but I think the end game here will come in 2 months or maybe another month. But I think it would be in good standing that we pass on what was being proposed today to the board. Again, it's just for going to the board, and there'll be more discussion at board level. And we could do another revision later. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Hankins. Board Member Romero.
Just a question with that. So let's do a chronological time thing here. Let's say we go with the send to the board for vote for approval what the amendments that not the ones that I put in, the ones that are already out for voting for the amendment, that one pager. Say we go through that and it goes through the board, it gets approved, starts immediately. School year starts by the time we're able to redo the next amendments to that policy. I'm just trying to figure out, let's say it goes through we go through, it gets vetted through legal says it's good to go. We bring it to board votes on it. Hey, miraculously it looks great. Let's do it. You put it into policy. Does that policy take effect in that same year, that same day, or is it go for the next school year? Because this way we are going to be allowing another year of a more lax policy. So does it take effect right away and it's implemented, or how does that look?
When a policy is proposed, or a policy change, it goes through this committee, goes to the board for first reading. Well, it's going to be changing, but anyway, first reading, then second reading. At the end of the second reading, it's implemented, correct? So, like that day, that becomes the effective date on the policy. So, having said that, yes, we could move this policy forward today, and then do as Board President Johnson has recommended. And if it takes a week or whatever, we can revise it again. But at the very least, we would have this policy updated per your recommendations. And then, as you guys have said, we would, and Board President Johnson, we would get some more information, make sure legal's good with it, and then revise it. Board President Johnson.
If you get legal's approval of this and then revise it, you're going to need to get legal's approval again. So I get that. Yeah. That's again, what I'm trying to do is, yeah. I hate to sound like I'm pinching pennies, but that's what I'm doing.
Dr. Garrison, I see your hand up.
I'm just I'm looking online, and I want to be sure that we're looking at the same policies. And the one that I want to make sure that the one that we're discussing right now, the 860 policy was the one that we originally had already vetted. But the one that we're looking to move forward is the one with all of the strike throughs from Mr. Romero's space that I'm looking at online. Is that what we're doing right now, or are we? I just want to make sure that what we're moving forward is clear as well, Mr. Nichols.
So the discussion has been around the policy that Mr. Romero had, I won't say rewritten, but made numerous changes and additions and deletions. That's what we've been talking about. But as Board President Johnson mentioned, she thought, and I tend to agree, it would be better to, I'll reach out to Board Member Levy, see if she's got any additions, and then I sent this afternoon to the legal department, and she didn't think she'd be able to get it back, get something back to me before the meeting, and that's obviously not happened. So we're not really at a moment. We're not really set to move this forward. So again, I'll refer to Board President Johnson's ideas that we, do what I suggested, get everything together, compare them, write it up, and send it to legal for approval, and then we'll call a special board meeting if it's just for this policy committee meeting. If it's just for this, it'll be just for this. Open for discussion. Board Member Hankins.
I disagree on that cadence. I think I stated, and I thought I was clear, that we move forward to the board what was presented originally before Juan's revisions. It's been approved by legal, it's been approved by Dr. Garrison, and and this is just going to the board for approval. We're just recommending it for approval. And then, so at least we have a revised update from 2022 on record if the board so chooses. Then after that, we can revise what will now be the new policy with the changes that we're all talking about, and taking in consideration President Johnson's advice that some of this has already been approved by legal. We just got to go back and cover our bases on it. I just think to keep things moving and not kicking a can. I know we're not striving to do that, but I think the most, to me, the most good thing we could do out of this committee meeting today is move this for approval, as was stated, coming into the meeting, and then deal with revisions after that. Again, it's just going to the board for approval. So I think we don't need to wait anymore, and we can approve what's on the board. Then we can revise with all these new additions or subtractions, and go through the same step again. We talk about a special board meeting. I'm fine with that, but let's at least get this on the docket for our next board meeting. That's my opinion.
Thank you, Board Member Hankins. Board Member Romero.
Okay. When's the next full board meeting? August 5th. Okay, August 5th. So to President Johnson's response about trying to pinch the pennies, I understand that. I'm okay with spending pennies and dollars and hundreds if I have to for the safety of my kid. And that's what it comes down to. Am I willing to spend it on, let me see, putting a new, something frivolous out there, like a poll or something like that? Not necessarily. When it's something we can work around, great, but is that a detrimentally safe thing for my kids? This is more safe for me. I'm okay with, explaining to anybody that asks me why I would want to spend more on legal to look at a different policy when it comes to the safety of my kid and my community's kids. just the same as it's just as important. So to me, I can't put a price on the safety for my kid, and I'd be willing to do that 100%. So I'm okay with putting this up, to legal and getting a response to legal regarding the amendments that I'm proposing, and going forward with that, since we'll have an answer by August, and we can have another special meeting, policy meeting regarding this to determine legal's outcomes and make a decision at that point before it goes to the full board on the 5th. We still have another week, so there would be time to do that. I'm okay with doing that, but as far as spending the money for another legal view on that, I'm okay with justifying that.
Okay, just to clarify, so what I forwarded to legal today is this. So the basic addendum or that you have proposed, that's what they have now. And what there was a piece of last week or last Tuesday night. So this, and I mean, I can reach out as soon as this meeting's over with and see if Mrs. Levy has any additional information and send that along, and then we can get it all done hopefully by next week. Go ahead.
Oh, we have a special board meeting on Monday. This is not on that agenda. It could be, but I won't put it on Monday's agenda. And
I was thinking in my head, we had another meeting before August.
Yes, it's a special board meeting, unrelated. And Mr. Romero, I support your desire to spend as much money as is necessary to keep our students safe. And believe me, I do. But we still, at the end of the day, have a budget that we have to try to live within. Legal has already vetted this policy, and it sounds like
this one,
and the original, that one, the original one,
okay.
And they're going to be, it sounds like, looking at this second set of revisions, and then if we have Mrs. Levy coming in with another set of revisions, at some point we need to say, before we contact legal, let's all of us get all of us on the same page with one well-written policy, hand it over to legal, because they, like I said, in May they already did a memo for us telling us what needed to be in here, and this right now this is what reflects that. I'm not an attorney, but I think we need to, be careful of us saying, okay, here's one revision, here's another revision, because, lawyers cost a lot. Mr. Nichols, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm of the opinion that we should not stop it, but just postpone it for a few days until we get the information we need that legal, additional information, and legal can get a hold, and they have all of it at one time, not piecemeal it over weeks, and still have it ready for the first day of school. Board Member Romero.
I can understand that, trying not to piecemeal things together. What efforts have we made to get all the information from the board members also? It's all our responsibility as each individual board member to be prepared with all the issues, with all the items that we have questions on. If we are not clear, reach out to the departments who is supposed to go to, who is directed to, the chairs of the committees that it's directed to, regardless, whatever it is. So how long? I mean, I'm okay with waiting on it, but how long until we do something? Because this is how things get drug out. it just keeps dragging their feet and dragging their feet and dragging their feet. We need responses pretty quickly as far as this goes, things like this. So I'm of the mind to just make sure that we have to have the speed to be able to get the response. I mean, I understand everybody's opinion is important, and I've expressed that also to other board members as well, that hey, we got to get our information, we got to be able to talk to each other, get our input to each other. So where do we say the time limit stops?
Well, Mrs. Shope, as I requested, sent out the memo yesterday at 2:33 with the agenda posted on board docs at my request, and she here's the statement. He asked me to request that any board members who have any recommendations for the policy revisions to please provide them prior to the meeting. That was yesterday. That was 25 hours ago. So, and I have no responses.
So do we keep waiting for responses? If so, how long? That's what I'm asking. What is the legal minimum that we have to wait for a response on something? Does someone know that?
I don't think there's any legal minimum on that. That's
right.
We're not going to ask legal that question.
Well, I'm just trying to figure out anything regarding open meetings laws. No. You have to have a certain amount of time to be able to respond. So, what is that minimum amount of time?
Well, to set this meeting, we had to have a 24-hour notice. So the 24 hours is up, if that's what you're asking. But anyway, again, I have no responses. Board President Johnson, I see you have a question.
There, to my knowledge, there is not a legal set time, but I do believe there's a certain level of etiquette that we board members all need to have for one another, and just as coming to board meetings prepared with your questions submitted prior to the meeting, with suggestions and revisions submitted prior to the meeting, giving other board members time to respond, I think is also important, especially this is summertime and a lot of us are doing a lot of other things and really wouldn't want to be sitting in meetings right now. So I appreciate that you did have the email sent out. I'm going to encourage board members to be a little bit more assertive in contacting one another with questions and getting work done before the meetings. If somebody does not respond to an email, I know 24 hours is ideal. Realistically, I'm still a couple weeks behind in my emails, and it's going to be at least another week before I can even get caught up in that. But I think 24 hours is a little short notice during summer hours, but perhaps a text message or telephone call would also help expedite the response.
If I may.
Yes, you may.
If I would have been told it was a hard deadline, I would have called all the other board members. But instead, I was told to call the other members of this committee, and so I didn't call the other people. It was more of a, if you have anything, get it here, because the original directive from the board president was to have all of your revisions to the superintendent or his office before the August 5th meeting. And then yesterday we changed that. So I agree with what Board President Johnson said. You have to give a little in this particular situation. And like I said, had I known if somebody had said, we want this to be a hard deadline, I would have called every board member and said, we're having this meeting, this is a hard deadline, we're giving you 24 hours to make any revisions. That's just my opinion as the board secretary.
Thank you, and we value and appreciate your opinion, and I'll take the responsibility for that because I did not ask you to do it that way. That's my fault. So, Board Member Hankins.
Yeah, I just want to go back and do a clarification. To do nothing averts back to the original policy set in 2022. If we do nothing today and pass what is currently on to, if we're going to stall this, it stays as it is, and we go to the August 5th meeting with the second reading of what's in place. I think I hear everything correctly, that if we're going to do a revision to a revision, we need to do it prior to the August 5th meeting and have a special policy meeting. But today, I think we need to take some form of action, and I defer to the board chairman on what that action is, but to leave it lay says nothing in my book. Thank you.
Well, I certainly I would not consider this laying, but at the same time, we're not in school at this moment, and I believe that we can get this done by the end of next week, and so, which takes care of it before school. The other side of this is if we put forward a policy and then we revise it, then we have to start the whole timetable over again. First reading, second reading, done. So that could run us in, potentially could run, anything's possible. So,
and sorry to jump in, but that's where I'm at. It's things fall through the cracks, meetings, whatever. We want to have something new in place by incoming school students. And I'm not saying we can start the process over after we make the approval of this at the August 5th meeting. Here's another question I don't know the answer to. If we revise this and we have a second reading on it, does it have to go back to a first reading? If we revise what is presently, we're going to a second reading on to the board.
That becomes the policy today.
My question is,
we're in the second reading.
Right.
So
if we change the second reading, doesn't that make us go back to square one?
Yes.
So
yes, that's
again,
what I'm saying.
We'll go to the board with the first reading on August 5th if we change what this says. And to do nothing would at least send this on to the board for a second board approval of the second reading.
That's correct.
Okay. Just so I understand
where
we're at. And I asked Ryan a pointed question, are we okay with the revisions that are currently on the board for second approval? Are you okay with that? And if we had to go back for the start of school, let's just say this gets approved August 5th, what is currently on the board, are we okay to at least start the school year? And I know it's no fun to change it again before it's students, and our end goal is to change it before school starts. I'm just saying we need to take action now, because if we change this revision of what we're looking at, it goes back to a first reading again, as my understanding, which delays it again, another board meeting. Thank you.
Board President Johnson, you have.
So, Mr. Hankins, if I'm hearing you correctly, are you suggesting then we take the policy 860 that was posted for the July 15th meeting, that version of it, and move that forward to the August 5th meeting?
Well, I don't know what the dates are on it. I'm just saying what is on my screen today for discussion, or to go to second reading to approve that to the August 5th meeting. Now, I'm not saying we don't have a special policy meeting. What I'm hearing, I think, and I could well be wrong, that if we do revise what is on our board, it goes back to a first reading. So are you saying, Chairman Nichols, that in our next special policy meeting we're going to create a new first reading to go to the board for approval.
If we approve this policy that President Johnson just mentioned from the other night, that becomes the policy of record. Mrs. Shope, if I'm wrong here, you let me know. But
after the board approves it, yes, that would be the policy of record.
Yeah. So yeah. Then if we're going to revise that, then we start over. Board President Johnson.
My understanding is if it gets moved out of the committee level to the board with the revisions, it's going to come as a first reading. If it comes like this and somebody comes to the board meeting, if it comes with what was on the last board agenda, if that comes and somebody says, I move to make these revisions, we can approve that then and there at the August 5th meeting and be done with it. But if you do make those revisions back in committee, you're back at square one. I just want to make certain that we have board meetings that we can get through efficiently, effectively, and have our communications done ahead of time so that we are not pulling in and confusing ourselves during meetings, because we get real good at that.
Let me clarify something also. So our next full board meeting is 2 weeks from Tuesday. So we've got just over 2 weeks to get this done and done right, and to the full board for final approval on August the 5th.
That's not what I heard you say when I asked.
No.
If we're going to change what is on the board for a second reading, it then becomes a first reading. What changes?
At committee level. If we do it, if you guys get this figured out.
But this was approved by the board at first reading. Does it have to get board approval for another first reading?
No. You guys, somebody can come, have it posted.
At the board level. The board meeting.
Yeah.
And then we make them there, and then it becomes part of the second reading. But if we go back to committee and redo it, like we're suggesting having a special policy meeting, then it becomes a first reading again. So if that's I love the pathway, but who is going to present these revisions altogether? You're talking about a board member or somebody else making the revisions at the board committee August 5th?
It would have to be a board member.
Okay. I love hearing that. Thank you. It kind of solves all my inquiries. Thank you.
Dr. Garrison.
I just wanted to make sure. Sorry, I just want to make sure. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I just want to make sure I'm hearing it correctly as well. I think we're working through that. I also just wanted to advise the board that the conversations that we're currently having right now, even in this space, it is a healthy conversation. I think we need to be patient with each other as we kind of work through these changes. There's a lot of good points that I believe everybody is making, but I do also believe that, with the time that we have and the policy that we currently have that was already vetted by legal, again, could be a starting point. It does not have to be the finishing point. And so I think Board Chair Nichols has made a good statement or a statement. And I think what I'm hearing him say right now, and Mr. Nichols, you can correct me if I'm wrong, you would like this to go have everything back to legal, get it all buttoned up, and bring it back. And if that's what we're asking to do, I think we should be able to move forward with the next part of the conversations. So let me know if that's kind of what you're thinking, Mr. Nichols.
Yes, that was pretty much what I was thinking. So, but I'll entertain a motion. Starts with one of you. So, go ahead.
if you don't have I'm sorry, if you don't have a motion right now, it's going to come back to the board on August 5th.
Correct.
For a second reading.
Correct.
Yeah.
What Board President Johnson, I move, well, then what do I move? We just let it go. Okay, thank you. Easy solution. Well, not easy. Good discussion. Thank you, Dr. Garrison.
Okay. Board Member Romero.
So I thought that we had passed a new policy that only has one reading at board level. That's correct, right? And 2 readings at committee level?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, we just recently did that,
yeah,
right?
We did. Yeah,
so,
we did.
So, in essence, then it could mean that this could be a first reading, pending legal approval, telling whatever legal tells us in that meantime, and then we can hold another special meeting in between before that first board meeting and bring it forward and iron the rest out as the final reading. So it could work that way as well. And to Board Member Hankins' point, we would still be able to do this before the start of the year, because I do agree we had to have something updated than the original lock, stock, and barrel thing that we've had, because it's non-existent. So I would move to have this as the first reading, but I don't, again, it's just a matter of, that's what we've got to think about doing. Should we make a motion to do that? And that's, if you do that, then what are the ramifications? What are we doing?
Well, again, as Board President Johnson, so without anything, this goes to the full board August 5th. Okay? So if we are able to get other additional information, then we can have our 1 or 2 meetings and get it to the full board also by August 5th.
So could we do a motion, or would it be prudent to do a motion to approve the amendments pending legal as the first reading?
May I help?
Yes, please.
So I think for this particular policy, it's kind of a moot point. You could do that, but you don't absolutely have to, because this policy, the very last motion on it was to have it return to the regular board meeting on August 5th. So regardless of what you do now, unless you make a formal motion, this policy should come back to the full board on August 5th. And in that motion, the part of that motion was to have people submit revisions to the superintendent's office so that all those revisions could be looked at and one good copy could be brought back to the full board for the full board to approve or make a minor revision to or something like that. So that's where this policy is sitting right now. So you don't have to make a motion for it to come back to the board on the 5th. You can, if that would make you feel better knowing that this new policy just passed, but this one's kind of an odd situation. In the future, you're probably going to want to say on a new policy, so for like your rules of order policy that's coming up, you're going to want to make a motion to hold it over in policy committee for a second reading. Something like that. Because this is new territory. We haven't done it like that before. We used to just say, that we would approve the revisions, and I can't even think of how we used to say it. Something about, approving the revisions and holding it over for second reading or something. So, but holding it over wasn't the terminology we used. But does that help?
If I could just, as a fellow committee members if we could strive to at least get it out through the superintendent's office or the revisions by Friday prior to the August 5th meeting, so they have plenty of time to digest it and comment. So if we as a committee can strive to do that by August, whatever that would be, for August 1st.
Yeah, well,
it's not like a commitment, but it is.
No, I agree, but I'm thinking by like next Friday.
I get that.
Yeah.
At least, I mean, that's
a week from today.
At least, like
yeah.
Board President Johnson has given us directives and given us like a drop dead time and date, and that would be the last that we get it done. But we, strive to get it done prior to that. But at least we're saying to the public and our fellow board members that we will have something in revisions by Friday, August 1st. It's just a goal that we have. If you approve it. It's just comment here.
Okay. Board Member Romero.
What is our cutoff time to put something on the agenda for the full board is Friday at 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock Friday.
5 o'clock Friday, okay.
August 1st.
So, well, the Friday before, 5 o'clock the Friday before. So it'd be August 1st.
That's what I said.
I can't have you put something on the agenda at 5 o'clock on that Friday.
No,
That's when I have to have it posted.
No, she has to have it posted.
So if you're going to put something on an agenda, it needs to happen a day or two before, depending on how it's coming to me.
So then we would actually have to have everything. We'd have to have maybe throw another special policy meeting together again to finish after we've collected information to get something out to Ms. Show to get on the agenda by Thursday.
That's what I was suggesting earlier, was that just one or two if possible, but no, she's absolutely correct. No, we don't get it to her by 5 o'clock.
So then it would be at this point, because we have to have two readings at the committee level before we bring it to board. So then if we wait till next week, then it would be the first reading next week. We would have to wait for another meeting to bring it to board. So that's where am I wrong here? Or? So if we have to have two readings, then, and this is not the first reading, so this would be the first reading. Okay, then the next one would be the second reading. So, but like you said earlier, if we have to make changes based on what legal tells us and everything else, then it becomes another first reading. No?
President Johnson?
I know.
I think this policy kind of falls through the cracks of the one reading at committee level, two at board level versus two at committee level, one at board level, because this policy was in the midst of that other policy. So it's kind of a grandfathered in policy. So if you guys do nothing today, this policy is going to come back to the board August 5th. My suggestion is everybody, all board members, get their thoughts into the superintendent's office by Friday the 25th, noon. Then the superintendent and the board secretary have time to compile all of that, talk to legal, have a response by the 30th, and it can get both the old original version and a suggested new version can get posted for our meeting on the 5th.
Which would give, with that timeline, Board President, then it would give fellow board members the time to digest after the Friday, between Friday and the next posting, right?
Absolutely. Well,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
I mean, that's the goal. We want everybody to know what's going on.
Like any regular.
And the superintendent he'll have time. Yeah. Okay, good. I'm good with that. Thank you.
Mr. Nichols, I just want to remind the board that, of course, we're working from a space that, how can I say it, as if everyone on the board, of course, cooperates with the timeline. And so naturally, when we're working in this space, we're at the will of the board when we get information. I know Mrs. Johnson just mentioned that, for posting efforts, we try to have all our stuff in actually on those Wednesdays as best as we can. And so it does help to have information as early as possible. So that's just something that I want to make sure we share and put into the atmosphere. Again, right now with the three of you all, naturally, or of course, board President Johnson, there today stating this is what we want to do. I just know that sometimes we fall into a delay with getting information back from all board members at the same time, and so hopefully we can make that happen this time, and we'll be able to meet any deadlines that the board is really setting forth for us to make as administration. And so that's why I do still believe it's important that we move this conversation forward for now, because again, it allows us to at least have something waiting in the background and see where everything comes, because we may not get anything from other board members. And so if that's the case, then we're right back at August the 5th. And so just want to make sure that everyone's aware that it all makes sense now as it stands, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's all going to play out that way. So I just want to make sure that we are on the same page with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Garrison. Board President Johnson.
Not all board members are required to weigh in. If they don't want to add anything, they don't have to. What I'm suggesting to Chair Nichols is that he request anybody who wants revisions have those revisions to the superintendent's office by noon, Friday the 25th, and that's what the superintendent's office works with. What we're really trying to avoid is spending 45 minutes per policy at the board meetings. We have other work that the board needs to get done, not committee level work. And if come 12:30 Friday the 25th, somebody says, "Oh, here's my response," Dr. Garrison, that's up to you whether or not you want to consider adding it. I would have a hard deadline of, if somebody's trying to add something on Sunday the 27th, to me that would be just a no. I guess Friday, anything after noon, that's up to you. But at some point, you just have to say, no, we're done. We need to move on. And at this point, we all have had enough time to roll over these things and have some sort of opinion or thought on it. So this is beyond frustrating. So just my 2 cents.
Okay, so we're done with 860 for the day.
So what is the result of this? So the 861.
So
just so I know,
the policy that we approved Tuesday evening is now going to the full board August 5th.
As it stands now.
As it stands now. Yes. Yes.
So what is that? Do we have to change it after the meeting?
We'll change it before the meeting.
Right. Pending the.
Everybody good? Are you guys good? Okay. Next, 2C 181 Rules of Order, first reading. Open for discussion.
Chair Nichols.
Yes, sir. Well, good. Yes, Board President, Board Member Romero. Excuse me.
Okay, so I'm looking at this, and I think it's really good. It helps us get this together as a way to clear up the air of what are we doing, which part of Robert's rules are we using, because that's been a big issue with what's going on with our board governance, and it's done a lot to hinder progress, in my opinion. So this proposal, as it states there, the current policy right now is just a one-line sentence. That's it. There's no, and whenever you ask anybody else, let me remove the screen here. So whenever you ask somebody, well, how's it been, how are we doing it? Why are we doing this process? It's always been done this way. This is just how it's been. It's not working. It might have worked when we didn't have as many issues or certain things come up that we've had to deal with as of late. Whatever the board makeup was in the past versus what it is now, it might have worked then and not so much now. There's different things that we're encountering now that might have not had to be in play then. So this, in my opinion, pretty much solidifies and gives a pinpoint view of what and how we should be following what rules of when. So, for example, you could say, yeah, we're supposed to be following the big board rules for, what Robert's Rules of Order, the large board. But in there it says that you have to stand up. You want to be recognized. You got to, stand up to speak and everything. So there's not been a precedence for that. And there's been a question on when you have discussion, when things are supposed to happen. So after the learning symposium that I went to just recently in Stevens Point, I did learn a lot in regards to this, and I felt that this would benefit our board in our district so we can streamline things a bit better, have a bit more efficiency at the board level. This way there's no things as far as there's no issues that come across as or I'm not being heard. Everyone has, if it's laid out, then everybody has the same directions on what we're playing from or what we're dealing with. So to conduct ourselves in certain rules, we have been using partly the small boards, some of the small board rules in conjunction with the large board rules, but we've never had anything on paper itemizing what we're using and what we're doing. So this does line it out. As it states that education meetings shall be governed by the most current edition of Robert's Rules of Order, because they change, including the following three rules that are adopted from the Robert's Rules of Small Boards. Number one, the members are required to obtain the floor, like we've always done, before making motions or speaking, which we can do while seated, because the large board says you got to do it when you're standing. Chairman need not to rise when putting questions to the vote. Chairman can speak in discussion and debates without rising or leaving the chair and subject to rule or custom with the particular board, which should uniformly followed regardless of how many members are present. He or she usually can make motions and usually votes on all questions. Each board member of the board shall be provided a copy of the most recent edition of Robert's Rules of Order. Timekeeping will be done by the board clerk, which already happens. The time limits in discussions shall include the time required for any questions asked by the speaker and responses provided to the speaker. The board president may, at his and her discretion, enlist the assistance of a person who is not a member of the board to serve as parliamentarian for any meeting in which such services may improve the order and board efficiency. So then also it goes on to do how we do things at committee. Because it's three people usually on committee, you can do, the committee chairs may at their discretion, again, it gives the chairs an option to choose to do so, conduct the committee meetings following the procedures for small boards. And then it just lists the procedures for the rules for the small boards. So it gives the chairs of each committee the option of how they want to conduct their committee. They can stay with the large board rules or do the small boards. And this I think will help a lot, streamline a lot of the the things that have been stifling us as a board from proceeding.
Thank you, Board Member Romero. Board Member Hankins, would you like to weigh in?
Yeah, well, actually, just for me, questions. Motions need not be seconded. At this, what we're currently doing, we second and then they go on or whatever. I mean, even the minutes. So it need not be seconded or may not be seconded.
Can I answer that?
Sure.
So what I'm reading and when gathering the small boards is more, it tends to be a little bit more casual. For example, they don't have to be seconded like a commotion. Let's say, Mr. Hankins, you say I move to approve the painting of the Colac building green, and then doesn't have to be a second, and then the chair would say, okay, this is a motion on the table, put it to a vote without a second. This is at the committee level. That's how they do it with the small boards. So that's where it says you don't need a second. And then also, when it comes to debates, small boards will tend to have debate before a motion. So you don't have to throw a motion out there and then debate if you don't want to. So it really depends on how the chair wants to run the committees at that point. The small boards don't require you to make a motion before you discuss. And when it comes to larger boards, you have to have the motion. So we've been in committee level thus far, we've been following a lot of the large board rules. So this is where you can have the committee chairs decide how they want to run it if they feel that procedures are too stringent for the smaller boards, that we can get things done easier. Sometimes you can do things easier when you don't have so many regulations on you with a smaller people or a smaller group. When you have larger groups, obviously things get more convoluted in that aspect, and you need more regulation when it comes to that. So that's the whole purpose of those. That's from what I'm gathering anyways. If I'm wrong, anyone feel free to correct me, but this is what I've gathered also.
But what I'm hearing, and I think I'm all in favor of the board chairing and going to the big board. Our decided upon officials, committee chairs, and our board presidents have to really be engaged in this and then follow it through. And I'm all for that, because that's where we really lack, and we do get into prolonged discussions. The next sentence, what I'm reading, which I really like, informal discussion of a subject is permitted while no motion is pending. So I revert back to today, and there was a motion on the floor, and I brought in the idea of not getting out of the food pantry business. That discussion could have been held prior to, if we were on the small board document, and maybe it's up to the board chair to recognize all this. And I firmly believe in that and tightening up our grip on this, but also keeping it informal enough that we do have fruitful discussion, which we have had today, and I know it's getting long and it's Friday afternoon, but I love it when we're being productive, and doing this is being productive. I'm just asking questions because but I'm saying in the end, I do agree with what I'm reading. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Hankins. Board President Johnson, any words? Nothing? Okay. Well, from my perspective, I think this is great. Yeah, it's certainly a big improvement over the previous one sentence policy. So I have nothing really to add. I think it's great, and I would entertain a motion to approve this policy for the first reading and move to for our second meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carried 3-0. Okay, next policy 2D 443.5, student use of mobile phones for first reading. I will open the floor for discussion. Board Member Romero?
Okay, so I can give a rationale for why I came up with what I came up. I know I tend to get some wordy, but I'm like to be precise to where there's no gray area, especially when it comes to cell phones and our children, our kids, because society today, they're just glued to their electronics, so we got to really be on point about being clear. The classrooms, we have to have focus there, but there's a lot of research out there that shows even just having the presence of a phone, even sitting on the desk, even if it's face down or whatnot, it still impairs the student's ability to learn because of this distracting thing. When it comes to, they've done studies where participants have had their phones placed nearby them, they perform worse on working memory tasks than those whose phones were packed away. I also have a list of the research that I've done with sources. If anyone's interested, I can send them out and email them. According to a study done by an article done and put out by Kushlev, Prox, and Dunn in 2016, that demonstrated keeping the smartphones visible or nearby reduced memory and attentional performance. So they weren't paying attention because they're kind of focused on something else. These days, we also have issues with earbuds. We have issues with smartwatches. We have issues with other personal electronics, and that's why this policy addresses that, or it's making an attempt to address it, I should say. In which case, that's where I feel it's more of a solid policy. It puts more clarity for anyone out there that's questioning why things are done a certain way or what is allowed and what's not allowed. It also, I did put verbiage in there to note that there are exceptions. You have to, some people use their personal devices to monitor their glucose levels, to keep track of things like that for diabetic patients, or blood pressure. And some people are on watch for oxygen levels, so they'll use their smartwatches for their O2 sats. So there's things that this policy does allow for to do so for medical conditions as well. So it's not just you can't have it. That's it. That's how it goes. Otherwise, you would be ostracizing people that use like the Dex G1s things for their monitors for their A1Cs. They have their little thing they can monitor with their phone, put it to their phone, and it reads their levels. So there's also limitations, and there's verbiage in there for the enforcement and consequences. I put that in there, but we also should be going to, and that's why I put it in there, because I wanted to discuss amongst us first to see and get input also as far as how people felt about that being here. I'm not sure if the Code of Conduct really addresses it too well when it comes to electronic devices, but that's where I want to kind of make sure that we're aligned with our Code of Conduct as well, and I know that could possibly be changing in the future, also. The authority for the teachers and staff, it gives them authority to enforce the policy and confiscate the devices as needed. The administration is responsible for logging the violations and issuing the appropriate consequences, whatever they end up doing. So it gives the power to the teacher also to enforce what's going on. So right off the bat, the whole community, the parents, the students will know, hey, you're bringing this at your own risk. It's being a risk of taking it away. Yes, you can have it if you have a medical emergency, and you should have the medical proof that's needed for it to provide that you actually need that device. It also has the parent-student notification in there. The policy is going to be distributed to the students and families at the beginning of each year. This is always, it's included in the student handbooks and should be posted on the website as well. This also falls into compliance regarding the Wisconsin Statute 118-258 and the 2025 Assembly Bill 2, which mandates the restrictions on the student phone usage during instructional time. Supports the safe, equitable learning with the district use Chromebooks as the primary tool for digital learning. So if they got to do some digital, we have Chromebooks that we're using in the system as well. If this policy probably would need to be relooked at should anything else change, if there's certain grade levels that aren't using Chromebooks or whatever, of course that's going to have to be revised in the future. But until something like that happens, this kind of covers everything going forward. Also, this is pretty much a no tolerance. It has a no tolerance framework to it. So at the beginning of school, before the first bell rings, you can use it. As soon as that first class bell rings, it better be put away in a locker or stored somewhere accordingly throughout the whole school day till the end of the last bell of the class. That last bell rings, and then you can go and retrieve your phone and do what you got to do and have a nice day. So in between the first and last bell is when there shouldn't be any of the cell phone usages. There's been studies with high schools that have done that recently, where they've gone to a no tolerance policy model and they've increased their scores pretty well. So that shows that it does have a merit to it.
Thank you, Board Member Romero. Board Member Hankins?
I'm so pleased that we're addressing this issue. I know it's been on, we tried to attack it last year, and I would like to rephrase how it's the wording of what we're doing. To me, it's a cell phone ban with restrictions, but the cell phone ban sends a clear message that while school is in session, there is no cell phone. Now, having said that, this goes the opposite ways. You can bring it, but here's what you can do. And I have to ask this question to either Missy and Ryan. Ryan, I want to ask you about the consequences and thereof. Is those consequences okay with you? And then going to Ms. Beavers or Dr. Garrison, does every student have a locker assigned to them that they can use to store? And when Juan said, put it in your locker or somewhere else, I don't know where somewhere else would be. Just so if we're going to try and get this right the first time, I do want to send a clear message to our students that it's a cell phone ban, period. And these are some exceptions of having that. It's not the other way around. Bring your cell phone, but you have to put it away. To me, it's a cell phone ban. It's what the wordage has been used over the last 2 years in the country, and that's just my 2 cents. But I'm so pleased that we are addressing this. I think our student achievement, that's one of the first solid things we can do for all our students and our teachers and support staff to help in all areas of discipline, achievement, paying attention. It's just a phenomenal thing. We're a little bit behind the curve, but at least we're doing it. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Hankins. Dr. Garrison?
Yeah, thank you, Board Chair Nichols. So first of all, I want to just note that we do understand that in Wisconsin and across the United States that students and technology use is something that we all need to monitor, and especially in the schools is something that we will continue to do so. Looking at the policy that was shared with revisions, I want to make sure that everyone knows that our previous policy was real tight as it pertains to the usage of cell phones. Now, one could argue it was indifferent in its enforcement at times. However, it was still a real tight policy, and I just want to make sure I note that with the committee and with whoever is listening and watching. Secondly, with the current policy that you have here that I'm looking at now, side by side, there's still not many changes that we're really making outside of getting rid of bullet points number 1 and bullet points number 2. The rest of the policy as it stands is still very similar to our current policy. There are some things that was added. The storage requirement is something that I'm seeing side by side with there are some variances there maybe, but again, with the exceptions space, we've always tried to work with that. And I guess I'm just trying to what I really want people to know is that our previous policy was a real strong policy. I do believe if it was enforced correctly, we wouldn't be at this conversation currently. However, we also, over the course of this past year, have been having conversations at the school levels around, how we can make that stronger in our, mostly in our high schools, because that's where we see the most of this conversation coming forward. And so I just wanted to make sure I noted that space in this conversation. Again, there's a lot of things here to take into account. The consequences. I'm going to have to ask Mrs. Beavers to help me with this. Did these consequences that you have, Mr. Romero, did these come from our? Did you add any new ones to this? Because I want to do a side by side just to see if this was.
That's why I just kind of put them in there. I didn't really do a specific side by side concept. That's why I was a little shaky where we should do a side by side and see what we have existing and how it correlates. Whether it could be that everything I put in there is already covered and that's just how it is. We can use that. But that's why I brought it up in there. Just put it in there so we can take a look at it, because in committee is what we're supposed to do, is do the discovery stuff here. So that's part of discovery. That's why it's in there. But we can alter it if what we have is stronger in the code of conduct, or for as far as what the consequences are. That's totally fine as well. But this just throws an option out there to see if how it aligns.
Board President Johnson, do you have any?
A question, and this, maybe it's directed at Ms. Beavers. Have you requested to see a study of how many cell phone violations there have been relative, I don't know, how long have cell phones been around now? Over the past, 4 or 5, however many years you can go back, and by grade level. And the reason why I'm in support of, a couple reasons why I'm in support of having a more stringent cell phone policy is the feedback that we board members have received through the staff climate surveys. A lot of times the cell phones are mentioned as a distraction in the classroom. The concerns that sometimes when videos get put out on social media, when the students should know that they're not supposed to be recording each other during the school day, even if it's during lunch or in passing, and the concern from attending different conferences where studies are showing that overexposure to social media is a bad thing. Overexposure to screens and screen time can be detrimental to the learning process. But I would also like to know what the executive director and the security director think is, what's realistic? Is this doable? Okay.
Thank you, Board President Johnson. Well, let me weigh in on a couple of things before we get to you guys. Number two, I agree with everything that everybody said. I think one of the other things, and you hit on the subject I was going to hit, was staff surveys. As a matter of fact, I even think in exit interviews it might have been mentioned a couple of times. So it is a challenge, and we've received emails from teachers about we need to limit cell phones. I think the other thing and I don't know if we do have any data. Okay, well that would be good to share with us. And then secondly, it creates, cell phones create a lot of discipline issues, without a doubt. I think if you look back at most, I won't say all because that's a big word, a little word, but it means a lot. But a lot of the, we'll say fights, for lack of a better word, that's probably not the best word to use, but fights that happen at the schools, I think generally they're started by cell phones, or the use of cell phones back and forth. So anyway, that's my opinion. You know, I can share with you. I don't have any data to back up but the Clinton School District, they just finished their first year of the no cell phone policy in their school district, and I don't know haven't seen any data or any reports on that. That's just one I know locally, and so anyway, I'll turn it over to you guys and what you have for us.
I certainly could pull data. Cell phone, there is a violation of the code of conduct if you are caught having a cell phone. So I could pull that data for you. It's an electronic device violation. And then I think the question was asked, is every student assigned a locker? Yes, every student is assigned a locker. Doesn't mean they use it, but they're assigned.
Exactly, that we're giving them a reason. But going back to Dr. Garrison, if I may, Board Chair.
Absolutely. Continue.
I do appreciate that what Dr. Garrison is saying. I'm not. I wasn't trying to point a finger at that the admin has not been trying to do this, but he also did admit freely that the enforcement may be the issue, which to me skews the data that Ms. Beavers may or may not pull up for us. Enforcement is always. I've heard enforcement of policies and codes since I've been on here. It's not so much the policy or the code of conduct, it's enforcement thereof of said policies. But I go back to what I've said, and I think Tia alerted to, stringency. I think a cell phone ban sends a clear message to our incoming students, and I know it's going to be rough for building admin and principals to enforce this for the first month or so, whatever. But in what I've heard and read, and I do have friends who teach in the Clinton district, and they're very happy. Turner's people are very happy with their code or their policy, but we need our own to fit our school district. I don't think there's any metric that shows there's been a decrease in student achievement and discipline with having a cell phone ban in place. So I beg to differ with anyone who wants to share that, but I do really want to set the tone of a cell phone ban and let clearly the incoming people, if we can get this through board, with a clear message and with maybe revisions from security, with maybe building admins or staff, on the enforcement. They're the ones who enforce it. We can make all the policies we want, but the enforcement is the key issue. If we did have if the last board policy, I think if it wasn't enforced, I agree with that. I've heard personally, and we talked about staff surveys, it's a problem. And we as a board need to fix this one that we can do fairly easily with help. Thank you.
Board Member Romero?
I do want to throw it out there also that, yes, there is the current cell phone policy is there. However, it's not very strong. Even if it were to be enforced as it is written, it's still not as strong. Why would you, here's how I look at it. Why would you take a plate of cookies, put them in front of a kid who is a sugar fiend, say, don't touch these? What's going to happen? And then now we're dealing with teachers having to come and take the cookie away instead of teaching what they got to teach. This is why that policy, although I'm glad we have a policy, I feel is not as effective even if it were to be strictly enforced. It's still not as strong. Does it need to be better enforced? Absolutely, I do agree. But even if you enforce it to the fullest with fidelity, extreme fidelity, is still a lot there to leave for error. The proposal that I have there, it leaves less to error in the sense that if this was enforced efficiently in the way it's supposed to, and it was enforced the same amount as the original policy, you would get better results with the amended version in what I'm looking at, because it is a little bit more detailed. Also here too, according to peer-reviewed sources, what we're looking at with Sage Journals written here in August 13, 2024. It says that the evidence for and against mobile phone bans found mixed academic results, but consistently positive outcomes for social well-being, such as reduced bullying and distractions. It also, another review done with rapid review meta-analysis in NDPIs, and this is just, things I'm looking on the web, just real quick searches here. There's been it's been shown to have a drastic increase from 2 to 6% increase in academic achievement, as far as efforts, as far as attention, as far as participation. So there's definite positive information out there, positive studies. You're always going to have the other side, well, it doesn't really work very well. It's negated, but it also does show, I was just reading here, in lower performing schools that it has a higher positive effect than it would in a higher performing district. So that kind of weighs in our favor in that aspect as well. Now, to Board Member Hankins' point, I can understand, why would you even bring it on the property at all? I get it, I understand that. However, we have to be realistic as a district as well to know that, there's parents out there that do need to get a hold of their children. As soon as they drop them off, hey, don't forget this, YZ, boom, 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 boom. Then also at the end of the day, they pick up their phone after the class, and they have those messages that have gone through that, say, okay, instead of the normal pickup, I'm going to be over here. Then they can coordinate as well. So that's why I was leaning towards before the first bell, you can use it, but as soon as that first bell rings, it should already be in a locker or a wherever space. And that designated space could be places like, for example, just looking out here also, they have these yonder patches. Just an example, a yonder pouch. They can be anywhere from, $20 to $30, but this is an example of something that can happen. These pouches can be had in, put them in your locker, or put them in a classroom or a certain area where they're safe and they're reserved. Also, too, you can choose to bring your phone, but it's also at your own, it's your own risk as well. So the district shouldn't be responsible for being liable for their electronic devices. So that's also, I believe I have that in there as well. If not, it should be in there, but I remember putting it in there. So those are things that we can look at in the other options. Of course, the yonder pouch might be more expensive way to go, but I don't think it is. I think it's something that we could probably figure out how to get, something going. But again, that would be up to, it's a suggestion. I'm not the final expert, but I'm just trying to research and give options out there to what we're going for with our district. And when it comes to this, I do agree that 100% cell phones and smartwatches and digital personal electronics are a definite distraction and distracts from the achievement of the district.
Thank you, Board Member Romero. Board President Johnson, did you?
A couple responses. Thanks for bringing that up, Mr. Romero. My personal feedback on the yonder pouches from when my son was at Beloit Memorial was that they were not highly effective because the students, being the smart students that we have, were able to disable the pouches and get their phones out, apparently with some pins or a paper clip or something. They could figure out how to undo the yonder pouches. So as a board member, I'm not real fond of thinking, okay, let's spend more money on pouches so that our kids have this opportunity to say, oh, how can we just destroy it to get into it? And I'm not saying that my son did that, but that was the feedback I heard from his group of friends. Another effective system I've heard is having a an over-the-door shoe hanger where they have pouches, so the kids come in if they're, they put their phone in pouch number 1 at the end of the day, or the end of the class period, they get their thing out of pouch number 1. Of course, then they would have their phones in between classes, and we want to try to get away from that. Maybe in their homeroom, have a closet or something, lock them in there for the day or something. I don't know. Let's leave that to our wise administrators to figure out how to navigate that. But something else that I'd like to ask this committee and the administration is moving forward, using terms like zero tolerance and cell phone ban. There's probably 50% of our community are going to freak out. I want my child to have their cell phone on them 24/7, so if there's an emergency, I know where they are. If there's an emergency, I can come and be there. And, that's a discussion that I think is above all of our pay grade, but that we have to be ready to have, because it is a societal response, and it's the period we live in where we are very reactive to what we see in the news. We're very reactive to what we see on social media. Whether it's right or not, I'm not here to judge, but I'm concerned that there are going to be a lot of parents that are going to come in and say, no, I want my child to have their cell phone. So it looks like Ms. Beavers.
Dr. Garrison, I think you've had your hand up a long time, so.
No, I'll just concur with what actually Mrs. Johnson just mentioned. What I was just going to bring up as a thought, depending on how we say ban versus no tolerance could spark different emotions around that space. And so that was what I was really going to share. So thank you, Mrs. Johnson.
Thank you, Dr. Garrison. Mrs. Beavers.
Hi, thanks. I was just going to encourage you, if you haven't already, and maybe you have, had conversations with building administration, because I'm looking right now at a letter that was sent home to BLA families, and it's addressing everything you're talking about right now. Below are the practices that we're requiring next fall. Cell phones and other personal electronic devices, including earbuds, will be secured before the academic day begins and will not be permitted in classroom hallways, commons areas, or bathrooms during the school day. Any devices found during the day will be collected and given to administration. These strict restrictions will apply during field trips and school events, as they are considered extensions of the classroom learning environment. This is a little bit different. Students may use cell phones in the learning lab during lunch. In case of an emergency, students may use a school phone to contact families. Parents and guardians should contact the school office at such number to relay urgent messages to their students. If a student needs to use a device for medical reasons, for example, diabetes or epilepsy, documentation from a healthcare provider must be provided. So she's got this all outlined already and ready to be implemented in the fall. The letter has already gone out to parents. So I just would encourage you, if you haven't collaborated with building principals on some of the revisions in this policy. I know they've been doing a lot of work throughout the year to get where they're going for next school year. It might be important to just hear the work that they've done and where they're going, because this aligns a little bit with what Board Member Romero is recommending.
Great to hear that BLA is already there. So thanks for those words of wisdom. Board Member Romero.
I am really glad to hear that that's happening at BLA, but this also goes to that enforces my reason for this policy as well, because this can be done evenly across all the schools, not just a few. So while some are being productive like that, and I applaud that, absolutely taking that initiative to go forward. Right now it's not equal. It's not, as far as it's not being applied equally amongst everybody. So it should be something that's equal. You should have no question about the rule at BLA versus Beloit Memorial versus any other school that we go to, Frusen. I mean, it should all be the same as far as I see, because that way, from the time the student is in elementary, the rule stays the same all the way to their high school. So nothing changes. Nothing that they have to get used to again. Nothing new. It's a new thing that we got to get used to, and that's always been the same for XYZ. and it'll improve the academic success of things. Now, when it comes to the effect or the idea of the parents freaking the parents out, I gotta have them on them 24/7. Ms. Beavers, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but don't we as schools have our own policies and protocols for emergency situations? You know, as far as when things happen. Yes. Okay. So, are those emergency situations clearly given to the parents?
Yes, annually.
Annually? Okay. Maybe we should do a semi-annually reminder or a quarterly reminder about it, possibly, just to reinforce into the community's mind that they will still be okay. My own kid was one of those kids that would be in class texting, and it's not something that I'm proud of, but it does happen, and it just goes to show I'm not perfect either. However, because of my experience with things, I do know that the existing policy is not working, and he has had his phone taken away, you know, specifically during class and all that, and you know, I've let my administrator know, good job, thank you, you know, and I'll take it from there. And every time it happens, handle it. That's fine. But a lot of parents, they get nervous about things, and I can understand that to a degree. But we have to have faith also too that our policies and protocols need to be clearly conveyed to everybody, so we all know that we have something in place in the case of the emergencies.
Board Member Hankins.
Yeah, just my opinion, I expect pushback. I think it's just common knowledge that it's going to happen, but I think, and I'm really happy what Missy just read us about BLA. That's a simple document. You know, I think it could be implemented district-wide. Also, you know, the teachers have access to phones. I mean, if something happens in their classroom, they have a way to deal with stuff. It's not like they're isolated from the world. I mean, if we went in and I know there's blocking devices that we could set one in a school, and all cell phones are just evaporated for while it's turned on. And that's kind of militaristic, but I mean, that is a very step. But if we adopt a cell phone policy, it gives backbone to the enforcers of said policy. It's everyone knows about it. The students know about it. Their parents or guardians or whoever in charge of them should know about it. And so there's no room for discussion. I mean, obviously in extreme circumstances. And the first offense, to me, is kind of light. You just take it away. Well, what the heck? I'm going to wait. I'm going to use it. And then they'll take it away. Well, it's got to be taken away anyways for the day. To me, it's just everyone's going to have a first offense, and they'll say, okay, now I learned my lesson. But that's just weighing in, and I know it's going to delay the process, so I'm not going to. I just want to adopt a nice, firm backbone for students and staff to understand it, and the enforcers have that. They know what's going on. SROs know. Everyone knows what the policy is, so there's no room for not knowing. Thank you. And I really applaud the BLA initiative.
Board Member Romero.
I do like this feedback and talks. Thank you guys for everything. However, also when it comes to mind that the people that automatically jump to I need to have my kid have this on him 24/7, I'm really wondering if they're really caring about the student achievement of their own child. When it comes to that, they're not thinking of the distractions that come from it. They're not thinking of redirection that their attention has to come from looking at the phone. Even looking at here and then looking back, it's still another redirection that they have to do in their minds to be able to refocus. A lot of kids have trouble with that as well, especially at the younger ages. So, but if we're really concerned about wording over the student achievement of the policy, then let's meet in the middle. If you have to reword it like a personal device use policy, or classroom disruption prevention policy, or technology use expectations policy, or in-school device restriction policy, structured mobile device policy. I mean, there's different ways that you can word that and still have the same effectiveness of the policy. So if people are really upset about zero zero tolerance policy or cell phone ban policy, and they're not, and that's what they're mainly complaining about versus the actual meat and potatoes of the policy, then we can reword it if we have to at that point. But the meat and potatoes of the policy is what needs to be enforced, and that will help our district succeed, in my opinion.
Thank you. Well, a couple of things. Number one, the title of our policy, I think, has always been a good one: student use of mobile phones. So to me, that's not threatening, and the way that BLA wrote there is perfect. I think we should. If it were me, I would turn that over to every building administrator.
I will. I forgot to add this, but I do know that she had listening sessions, and that included student voice, where she got what she created. And I know she wanted to be here but couldn't with the short notice. She lifted student voice into what they have in place right now, so that's really important too.
Perfect. That has a whole lot more credence to the whole thing. So anyway, yeah, thank you. Board Member Romero.
If you wanted to use this existing title for it that we currently have, which that's fine also, I would just probably implore to think about including personal electronics into that title as well, because you got earbuds, you got smartwatches, you have, blood monitors, you have even some people they might have an O2 set. I mean, who knows? Just different electronics that are for personal use that would apply for. I mean, back in the day, they would call them Walkmans or, things like that, but it's still a personal electronic. So that's just what I think. Just add that on.
You could also, instead of Chromebooks, put devices, and then you'll be golden for whatever the district uses.
Well, that's what I was going to suggest was, excuse me, student use of mobile phones and personal electronic devices. Does that cover it? Board Member Hankins.
I guess I'll be the hard guy in this, because I really think that it's got to be a clear message that we have changed this. You need to look at it, and then if you don't want the cell phone ban, that's just my opinion, and I'm only one. At least put in this, student non-use of mobile phones for first use. I mean, we're saying a positive and then negating what we just told them. So if we said student non-use of cell phones, I just think there has to be knowledge that we're changing the policy, and it's new and it's clear, and it will be enforced to a better degree, pending, Missy, and what I would talk with you about. Building admins are on board with this, and if they don't, if they don't want to help enforce this, then it's going nowhere. So I do think we need to have them join in, and I don't think we need, 40 opinions on it. But if BLA, if she reached out, I think what I heard you say, I thought kind of covered what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I think if you get the secondary principals in a room, they'll have a lot to share.
Board Member Romero.
I do want to mention too that when Board Member Hankins mentioned, you got to show that there's a change. Kind of says it in here also. The district is committed to establishing a no tolerance framework. No tolerance. It's in the wording right there as well. So, yeah. But I get it for more of the upfront shock. And that's what he would be going for at that point.
Softer down.
Yeah. But you have to realize too, mainly the people that are going to be reading this are the community members, the adults, and they're going to be conveying this a lot to the student, and except for the high school level. Obviously, more of the high school levels are going to be more engaged and look at that also. But I mean, I'm okay with getting the kickback on have it no tolerance or zero tolerance policy, but I'm also okay with just adding on the extra, verbiage, personal electronic equipment as well. So to me, it's one way or the other, but the meat and potatoes, as long as that's not changed, that's what's going to be enforced as far as that goes.
Thank you. Dr. Garrison.
Yes, and I agree. And I'm just going to say, Mr. Romero, you're right. We don't use Walkmans anymore. But one of the, I haven't. When you said that, I kind of went back in my brain and started thinking about the old push the button for eject and put a tape in there. They're probably worth a lot of money right now, just to let you know too, right? But one of the things I want to say, we're still a learning institution, right? And so, in whatever policy we put in place, there has to be learning around it. I think one of the things that we've tried to do in the school district of Beloit is take current policies and, of course, make sure that it works for our context. Naturally, in this space, we have work to do, but I do believe that, as Mrs. Beavers just mentioned, another one of my suggestions would have been to have, as I've mentioned to Mr. Nichols before, have some additional conversations with our principals, to make sure that everyone's on the same page as well, because I don't want anyone to think that we haven't had these conversations already. As Mrs. Beavers just mentioned again, there was already a letter that went out from BLA. I know the high school was already working on some work as well for this year as it pertains to tightening up the conversations with the cell phone. I still have to lean in on the space around what language we use, because language does matter in this space, because at the end of the day, the content is still very strong, which is where we it seems as if the board is wanting to move towards not having cell phones in play. And so that's where we were as well from a learning environment perspective. Yes, it was a little loose, Mr. Romero, as it pertains to us allowing students to use their cell phones during the lunch periods or during the, their free, one could argue, free time during the day. And I hate to say free time, but just passing time and or during the lunch periods. And so that was a part of our policy. So I can see where you say adding more, levels of clear conversations is important. But I do want to make sure everyone is very aware that we have been having these conversations around cell phones over the course of this year. We did see the writing on the wall with this from last year, from when Mr. Hankins had brought this up. And so we had been working on making sure that we move in a direction in which cell phones or electronic devices wouldn't be a distraction to our learning environment. Thank you.
Is there a motion?
Well, would this be for first reading, or will this be for first reading because it's under the new?
Yeah.
Yes, first reading.
Correct.
I would add that, assuming that this group's going to get together before the next board meeting, which I believe we are, then we could also do a second reading on this at that time.
I move that we. Brian, could you read the motion? Sorry.
I'm going to take the liberty of changing the title a little bit. So move to recommend to the Board of Education approval of revisions to policy 433.5, student use of mobile phones and personal electronic devices.
So moved.
Pardon me.
Wait a minute. We got
hold that move.
Yeah, we don't want to send it to the full board.
Right.
Right.
So what I wrote for you to help was to move approval of the revisions of the policy 443.5, student use of mobile phones and personal electronic devices, for first reading and layover, because that's the word we used to use.
Oh. Okay.
For the committee's second reading.
Beautiful.
Does that make sense? Does that
works for me?
Okay. So that's kind of what I'll prompt with in the future to help, if that's okay.
Yes.
So do we have a motion on the floor, or did she stop the motion?
Well, she just stated the motion. So
well, she said before you move. So
okay.
We're back to square one.
No.
Go start over then. Sorry. I'm just trying to.
Mrs. Shope, would you read the motion, please?
Sure. Sure, I'll repeat that motion. Move approval of the revisions of policy 443.5, student use of mobile phones and personal electronic devices for first reading and layover for the committee's second reading.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried 3-0.
Chair Nichols, could I say something?
Yes.
Ms. Beavers, also, if you guys come with more information regarding this for the second reading, can you send it over so we can take that into consideration as well, if there's anything else, because I want to get to this right. I want to make sure it gets to the board with as right as we can get it.
And I'll ask also, Missy, if you would send a copy of that letter that BLA sent out.
I already did.
Thank you.
Yep, she already sent it. I saw that. Thank you. Okay. Next and last item is 2E 183, policy 183, voting method with a proposed name change to board member voting and participation in meetings. First reading held over. So I will open the floor for discussion. Actually, I want to, before we open for discussion, I have some suggested changes. So I want to read these to you. If you're looking at the policy, either online or a hard copy, recommend removing the last sentence of the first paragraph. And then down in the green area, the green and some red, the second sentence, a member who is not present may not vote by proxy, and we're going to leave the not in there, may not in their absence have their opinions or concerns on matters, we're going to leave that in, shared by others during a board meeting, period. Okay. So the second sentence should read, a member who is not present, well, that's already there, may not vote by proxy and may not, in their absence, have their opinions or concerns on matters shared by others during a board meeting, period. And
so just to clarify, everything you just read, whether it was struck out or not,
yes,
is supposed to be in the sentence.
Correct.
And if you didn't read it, then it should be struck out.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Like notes and by and
okay.
Either the board president or committee chair, I'll strike those.
Okay.
And then the next sentence, just the first sentence below the green, members may vote on a topic if they have participated in the meeting and discussion for that topic. Delete of interest. I think that was already on there. And then everything else is fine. So, open for discussion. Board Member Hankins.
Does this apply to committee? Committee participation?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Then I think there was a couple lines in here, and I know what the heart of what we're trying to get at. No member no, go back. In their absence, have their note shared by either the board president or committee chair during a
board meeting.
During a committee meeting also.
Well,
unless the committee chair, in this case you, or the board president reads those. No one else reads those unless the committee chair at the committee or at the board, either the committee chair or the board president reads.
We've struck through the board, either the board president or committee chair has been struck through, deleted. You see it there in green?
Yeah.
Okay, that's been deleted.
But this is specific to board meetings.
Well, it says board member voting and participation in meetings. So this would be a meeting.
Okay, I just want to throw in the committee meetings also,
Okay.
make it more clear. If the committee chair, if you're not present, can read emails that you have received, but I can't. I'm going to propose it. I just think it needs to be tightened up if this is going to be a policy for committees also.
Okay. A member who is
Be inherent in the discussion, but
okay, let me read that again. A member who is not present may not vote by proxy and may not, in their absence, have their opinions or concerns on matters shared by others during a board meeting. And we struck either the board read by others, either the board member, board president, or the committee chair. So it's covering all that.
oh, it's not struck in my.
No, it's not. That's what I just went through and changed. Okay. A member who is not present may not vote by proxy and may not, in their absence, have their opinions or concerns on matters shared by others during a board meeting, period.
Either, yeah, so you got rid of all.
Yeah.
It can't be.
Right. Okay.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Board Member Hankins, do you have anything?
That's me. I already did.
I mean, Board Member Romero.
Maybe just add committee or take out board. I don't know. I just kind of. I have to. Let me look on that. Can I take a 5-minute recess to look through it?
No. we could say during a board or committee meeting.
I'd be happy with that.
That's fine.
Okay. Did you get that, Michelle? Yes. Okay. Any other discussion? Could I get approval of the revisions of policy 183 voting method with the title change to board member voting and participation in meetings for first reading? And how did you say it, Michelle? Layover. And layover. For second reading? Layover for second reading. Right. By the committee. I just did.
I want to ask one more question, so I'll wait for discussion.
Okay. All right. We can after the.
So move.
Okay. Does this include closed session?
Yes.
Should that be duly noted? Or executive session, however the preference is?
Well, in this case, a meeting is a meeting. So.
I'm just asking. We just put committee chair.
If Board Member Higgins can second, then we can do discussion on it real quick.
No, you have a second.
First, then we'll discuss it. Now.
No.
No, you got to do. You got to second my motion.
We didn't have a second.
I second.
Okay. Now, is there any discussion?
So I'm thinking to Board Member Hankins' idea there, it probably wouldn't hurt to denote it in there so it's not assumed. I think assumptions got us into trouble in the past, so just my 2 cents.
Board Chair Nichols, it does. I mean, it says remote participation in closed session meetings shall not be permitted, as is written online. Are y'all reading something different than I'm reading? I'm sorry.
No, we should be reading the same thing.
Okay, so it says it I mean, I'm not, when I say, are y'all reading the same thing? I'm not trying to be rude or anything. I know you just changed something in the middle there, or changed the middle part, but everything else is intact. It says remote participation in closed session meetings shall not be permitted. And so I think Mr. Hankins' point, or Mr. Romero's point, that we should add closed session, I think it's already there. That unless we want to add it somewhere else. Unless y'all trying to add it somewhere else. Sorry.
Thank you, Dr. Garrison. I guess I was a little confused on what was struck and what wasn't struck.
All right, no problem.
Thank you, Dr. Garrison. Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carried.
Chair Nichols, so this went to committee, and then it went to the full board for a first reading, and never went to the board for a second reading. So I'm not sure if you want to consider this a first or second reading at the committee level. I mean, you did make more changes.
Yeah.
Not that that necessarily negates and makes you go back to a first reading. However, it got like lost in the shuffle, so
Okay.
it's been a few months since anybody's seen this.
Okay.
So you made the motion the way you did, which
Right.
is fine.
Correct.
But if you wanted to rescind that and go for a second reading and send it right to the full board, I think there wouldn't be an issue with that either. It's kind of one of those that's
Right. Yeah.
Kinda on the-
but you're right. It has been
on the edge,
it has been through
both sides of the fence.
Okay. So yeah, it needs to be second reading.
Okay, so then you have to rescind the motion that was
okay.
made. Somebody has to rescind that motion.
Can I get
And
a motion?
I need to know, did Juan make the motion and Tom second, and
yes.
then it carried,
Yes. Right.
correct? Or it hasn't carried
yeah,
yet?
It did carry. So now we got to rescind it, and we have to rescind the motion and vote again on it, and then redo it. Right.
So I have to think of my Roberts rules. Okay, so Juan made it, Tom seconded, but you haven't voted yet.
They did vote. You did vote at 3-0.
We did vote.
Yeah.
We did
But
vote.
Mr. Hankins, I'm sorry. I mean, Mr.
yeah.
Nichols has had a quick question.
I'll vote it down.
So
Can I move to reconsider?
Either that or you can all vote it down.
I'd like to move to reconsider the previous motion, previous vote.
okay.
I'll second.
Okay.
I didn't hear what you said.
I move to reconsider the previous vote.
Okay.
And Tom seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye?
Aye. Sorry.
Okay. Now let's go back to the move approval of the revisions of policy 183 voting method with the title change to board member voting and participation meetings for second reading for layover for second reading by the committee. I mean by the board. Sorry about that.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. 3-0.
And just to clarify, Tom, did you make that motion and then Juan seconded?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Could I make a request of Mr. Turner?
We're too late. We're at next meeting date and adjournment. So the next meeting date is Wednesday, August the 6th at 4 p.m.
No, actually, I'm sorry. My hand up.
Dr. Garrison?
I think that wouldn't be correct because with the new policy and HR committee change, how depending on where this lands, I guess we would be meeting on the first Monday before Tuesday. And so I guess we don't need to wait. Well, you're right. It'll be on the 6th until something changes.
Regular. It'll be it'll be for the regular first. It'll go to the board on the 5th. I'm just saying the next meeting is the 6th for the committee.
Yeah, correct, but remember on the previous policy, on the HR policy, if it goes through, that this meeting will now be on a Monday prior to the Tuesday board meeting.
That policy hasn't passed yet.
Correct, and that was my own confusion. That's what I meant. Yeah, because that meeting date could change based off of where we land in that policy. Sorry.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Garrison. And could I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. We adjourned at 5:10 p.m.
But our intent is to have another board, a policy meeting, right?
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you guys for being here.
Thank you, Ryan. Thanks, Missy.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody on board. Everybody in the public. Good meeting. For Friday afternoon. Happy hour now.